The phone buzzed just as the last box slid off the conveyor belt, and in that single vibration, Aaron Whitlock felt the world tilt. It was Christmas Eve morning, sunlight spilling through the warehouse windows like a cruel reminder of warmth he could no longer afford, and the supervisor's face already carried the apology before the words were delivered. Fired. Let go. Downsizing. The reasons blurred together, but the result landed with a hollow thud in his chest. A single dad with a rent notice folded in his coat pocket and a 7-year-old son waiting at school with a paper snowflake he'd cut by hand, Aaron stood frozen as co-workers avoided his eyes. He walked out into the bright winter day with a cardboard box of desk scraps, feeling like the cold had found a permanent home inside him. But if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, take a moment right now to like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Journal. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that are hurting. Aaron's life had been measured in careful routines since his wife passed 3 years earlier, each day a quiet balancing act between grief and responsibility. He worked hard, saved harder, and tried to shield his son, Noah, from the sharp edges of reality. But that Christmas Eve, daylight seemed too honest to hide behind. He drove to Noah's school with the radio off, rehearsing how to explain that Santa might be late this year. The sun sat high and pale, casting long shadows across the playground where children laughed, unaware of how fragile grown-up promises could be. Noah ran to the car with unfiltered joy, waving the paper snowflake like a treasure. Aaron smiled, because fathers learn how to smile even when everything hurts, but the smile cracked as they drove past the toy store where he had once planned to buy a second-hand bike. At home, their small apartment felt louder in the daytime, every ticking clock amplified by worry. Aaron spread the bills across the kitchen table, the light revealing numbers he could no longer outrun. He had hated daytime and winter since his wife's illness, since sunlight made everything too real. Still, he made grilled cheese for lunch and let Noah watch cartoons, pretending normalcy was a skill he hadn't lost. Outside, neighbors carried groceries and wrapped gifts, their laughter drifting through thin walls. Aaron closed the blinds but left one open, because he didn't want to teach Noah to hide from the world. There was one person Aaron had spent years trying to forget, a man whose name tightened his jaw whenever it surfaced. Marcus Hale. The former landlord who had raised the rent without warning, who had argued with Aaron on the very day of the funeral, who represented everything cold and transactional about a world that had taken too much. Aaron had moved out since then, but resentment had stayed. It was easier to hate than to revisit helplessness. As the afternoon stretched on, Aaron cleaned compulsively, as if order could invite mercy. He found Noah's old drawings, taped them to the fridge, and promised himself that pride would not stop him from asking for help tomorrow. The knock came just after noon, sharp and unexpected, cutting through the quiet. Aaron's first instinct was fear, then irritation. He hadn't ordered anything, and collectors preferred evening. He opened the door to bright daylight and an even brighter surprise. Marcus Hale stood there with a winter coat dusted in snow and an expression that didn't fit the man Aaron remembered. For a moment, anger surged like a reflex, old words pressing to escape. The memory of raised rent and colder days flashed, and Aaron felt the old hatred rise, hot and familiar. Marcus looked thinner, older, his eyes scanning the hallway as if he knew he wasn't welcome. What followed did not arrive as an apology wrapped in neat words or a dramatic confession. It came as an awkward offering, a box held too carefully, and a hesitation that suggested courage rather than entitlement. Marcus had learned about Aaron's layoff from a mutual acquaintance and remembered the boy, the paper snowflakes, the quiet dignity. He had come in daylight because he believed daylight was for honesty. Aaron wanted to close the door. Pride argued loudly. But Noah appeared behind him, curious and trusting, and something in that simple presence softened the moment. Aaron stepped aside, not because he forgave, but because he didn't want his son to learn that doors should always be closed. They sat at the small table while the sun painted pale squares on the floor. Marcus explained how the years had changed him, how a health scare had rearranged his priorities, how the memory of a widower struggling with rent had haunted him longer than he expected. He didn't ask for absolution. He didn't defend his past. He brought groceries, a gift card, and a lead on a temporary job that started the following week. Aaron listened with his arms crossed, heart at war with itself. Hatred, he learned, is loud but shallow, humility is quiet and deep. The groceries mattered. The job lead mattered more. But what mattered most was the way Marcus spoke Noah's name as if it was important. After Marcus left, the apartment felt different, not lighter exactly, but less heavy. Aaron stood by the window, watching daylight slide across the buildings, and felt something unfamiliar stir. He had been so sure that survival meant hardening, that forgiveness was a luxury for people with safety nets. Yet here was evidence that second chances could knock when least expected, wearing faces we thought we'd never welcome. Aaron spent the afternoon helping Noah assemble a puzzle from the gift card's promise, the pieces fitting together under the watchful sun. He cooked a simple meal and let Noah sprinkle cinnamon on toast, making the kitchen smell like effort and care. Later, Aaron called the number Marcus had given him. The job was real, the start immediate. It wasn't permanent, but it was daylight again, a path forward instead of a wall. He sat on the couch, sunlight slanting through the blinds, and allowed himself a long breath. Grief didn't vanish. Bills didn't evaporate. But the story had shifted, just enough to breathe. He wrote a short note to Marcus, not forgiveness spelled out, but gratitude offered honestly. Sometimes bridges begin as narrow planks. As afternoon leaned toward evening, Aaron and Noah walked to the park, coats sipped, cheeks flushed by cold and sun. Children chased each other under bare trees, and the sky stayed bright longer than expected. Aaron realized how much he had underestimated the power of showing up, even when you're afraid of rejection. He watched Noah laugh and felt the ache in his chest soften into something closer to resolve. He would work the temporary job. He would keep asking for help when needed. He would teach his son that strength includes mercy, and that people can change in the most inconvenient, beautiful ways. If this story is touching your heart right now, please take a moment to like, share, and comment below, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your engagement helps spread hope and reminds others that kindness still matters. That night, as daylight finally surrendered, Aaron tucked Noah in and taped the paper snowflake back on the fridge where the last rays could still catch it. He stood there a while, hands resting on the counter, letting the quiet settle. Christmas would be modest, maybe even uncertain, but it would be honest. He understood now that hate had once given him a sense of control, but it had also narrowed his world. Opening the door had widened it. Second chances, he realized, don't erase the past, they reframe it, giving pain a purpose beyond endurance. Before we end, please leave a comment and share your thoughts below. Tell us if you believe in second chances and how kindness has changed your life. Aaron turned off the lights and looked once more at the door, the ordinary door that had become extraordinary in the daylight. He felt gratitude not just for groceries or job leads, but for the reminder that help can arrive from the most unlikely places, asking us to grow in ways we didn't plan. In a world that often teaches us to keep score, he chose to keep the door unlocked, at least in his heart, trusting that tomorrow might bring another knock worth answering.